Hello, everyone. Welcome. Welcome to nexHack Edtech. We are so happy to have you here. It's been weeks in the making and lots of conversations on email and Slack, and the moment is finally here. We are starting finally nexHack. So thank you for spending your weekend with us. My name is Emma. I'm one of the organizers of the nexHack. I'm helping out with organizing with the Swiss Next India team. So many of you I've already talked with. We've met on Slack, and I can't wait to meet the rest of you this weekend. It's a shame I can't see you at the moment, so definitely put your name, introduce yourself in the chat channel, tell us where you're watching from, because we have people tuning in from all over the world, and I think it'd be really cool to see where everyone is watching from. So we have 48 hours ahead of us of hacking for EdTech. It's going to be a full weekend, but it's going to be really fun. We have yoga, we have workshops, we have networking events. There's lots to do. All right, so definitely keep an eye on that chat box because people are introducing themselves, but also because if I mention something during this intro or one of the panelists, we're going to share some links with you in the chat box. So that's a good place to stay up to date with whatever we're talking about, the panelists up here. Finally, if anyone is having tech difficulties, then please go to Slack and in the hashtag support channel, put your question in there. And one of us from the nexHack team is going to help you out with that. So that's it for my intro. And now it is my pleasure to introduce to you Sebastian Hug, the CEO of Swiss Next India.
Thank you, Emma, and a big hello and good morning or good evening to all of you, wherever you are right now. It is a great pleasure to welcome you all virtually to this first edition of the nexHack Edtech. Not too long ago, this virtual hackathon was just an idea, but now this idea has become a reality. This is very exciting and quite frankly, a little nerve-wracking for us as a team. After weeks of preparation, we can't wait to start this competition now, and we are super happy to see that over 350 people from 45 countries have signed up for this hack. Many of you are already very active on Slack, connecting across borders and creating a community as we speak. And I think what's really great to see is that many of you are doing this hack or a hack for the first time, which is absolutely fantastic. So thank you so much and congrats for joining us to try out something new. For those who don't know who we are, allow me to briefly introduce ourselves. That is Swissnex and Movetia. Swissnex is an initiative of the Swiss government to connect Switzerland with the leading innovation hotspots around the world in the fields of education, research, and innovation. We are a global network and have locations in Boston, San Francisco, Shanghai, Rio de Janeiro, and I'm together here with my team based in Bangalore, India. And for this event, I'm joined by my colleagues in Switzerland and in Boston. We work with universities, startups, innovative companies, and policymakers with the goal to connect them to potential partners in our respective innovation ecosystems, to facilitate collaboration, curate exchanges of knowledge and ideas, and we want to inspire them, coach them for market entry, and build visibility around Switzerland as a global innovation and science hotspot. Actually, Swissnex is turning 20 this year. In the year 2000, Swissnex started in Boston, a little bit like its own startup. It was an experiment in the very beginning. And so this hackathon here is also part of our anniversary campaign, Next 20, where we don't look back, but we're actually looking forward how we as a network can shape a joint future. Today, it is about the future of learning, and more specifically about the future of international education. If you want to learn more about our campaign, Next 20, the link will be in the chat box. Swissnex is very much a collaboration, partnership-driven organization. And for this occasion, we actually partnered up with an agency that has a very similar mission as ours. And this is Movetia, which is the Swiss agency to fund and support exchange and mobility projects, linking up organizations and institutions that promote exchange and mobility within Switzerland, as well as with the entire world. Well, most of you, like us here in India and Switzerland or the US, are currently facing a period where international mobility has become almost impossible. But even without the current pandemic, discussions around climate change and the need for more sustainable models really bear the question how we can rethink international education, which is actually more important than ever. How can we make it more inclusive, more accessible, and at the same time, more sustainable. The current pandemic has shown us the huge push in Edtech, education technologies, all over the world. And there is still a huge potential to bring digital solutions, especially in the field of international education and mobility. But let's be clear, this is not about replacing physical mobility with an app, but it is about enhancing the current experiences, offering sustainable alternatives to creating more engagement between different cultures, creating new platforms to learn from each other and work on joint projects. Over the next 2 days, along the 2 challenges that we have defined and will be presenting later, this will be an opportunity for you to really rethink international education, to let your creativity go wild and come up with novel ideas, to deep dive into and reimagine the world of virtual mobility by working with peers from very different backgrounds, hopefully from different countries with different kinds of skill sets and ways of thinking. In fact, for the next 2 days, you all will be Edtech entrepreneurs. You will be working like a startup. But what does that mean? If you haven't done so, you have to build a strong, diverse team. You have to understand the challenge which you want to address. You will need to decide quickly which specific aspect of it you want to resolve. You will be brainstorming solutions together. You will need to think about the business plan, the customer, the market, where your solution will be in competition with other products. You will need to divide the work in your team based on your diverse skill sets and eventually come up with ideally a prototype or a mock-up or a concept is fine as well. As an EdTech entrepreneur, you're given 2 challenges, which are included in the Hackers Welcome Package. And we'll have many mentors from different backgrounds, technical, education, business, which will give their best to give you advice and accompany you during the next 2 days. Let me thank you here to all the mentors, for all the judges who have been contributing to this project. Of course, the nexHack team of SwissNex and Emma. Now, who is going to judge these projects and based on what criteria? We have the privilege to have with us Amanda Kramery. She is the head of higher education sector and board member at Novetia. We have Christina Riesen, who is the founder and CEO of Educreators Foundation, a nonprofit supporting deep change in education. We have Florian Rüedi. Florian is currently part of the IT excellence team at Siemens Innovation Lab. And we have Robert Battery, who is the head of international relations of the School of Business at the University of Applied Sciences and Arts, Northwestern Switzerland. Together, we have defined a couple of criteria which you will find again in the Hackers package. In short, our judges will be grading the projects which you will pitch in a maximal 3-minute long video according to the following criteria. 1, the level of innovation. So how forward-thinking, how novel is your idea? Or does something already similar exist? But then also business value. Even if it's a great idea, if there's no market for it because it's not relevant to the customer, well, then it's not a real innovation. So think of the business value, the added value. We look at the prototype, of course, and the scalability. How feasible also is the project? If you're saying that you will be beaming students from Switzerland to India, well, this, of course, would be not very realistic. Judges will also look if there's a prototype or a mock-up, and if it's only concept, that it's fine as well. But do have a look at the resource section on Slack, which gives you a lot of easy tools to create mock-ups. So no coding skills are really required. We will be asking ourselves, is it easily scalable? Is it something which can be scaled easily across geographies, or is it limited to a very small customer base? And lastly, we believe that the solution itself should also promote, in a way, inclusiveness and diversity. Having a diverse team itself with people from very different backgrounds, different countries, from different disciplines, of course, will help. But by inclusion, we also mean, for example, a product that is not only something for, let's say, people that can afford it. It could also encourage accessibility for, let's say, people with disabilities. And the solution should also encourage people from different backgrounds coming together. So think of those criteria when you're working your solution and when we will present your solution to the judges. As you might know, the team members of the winning team will win a 1,000 Swiss franc voucher each to attend a Swiss summer or winter school, virtual or physical, whenever it's possible. The voucher will be valid until the end of next year, and of course, it's also valid for virtual courses. For the best 4 teams also, we will be offering the Design Thinking Toolbox book. You already have received an excerpt from it in the Slack and in your package. The most promising teams, or the teams with the most promising solution, will also be contacted by Movetia afterwards. Movetia will be offering seed money to the most promising ideas, and Amanda will provide you further information in a couple of minutes. But at the end of the day, we hope that no matter where you are, and that you will find inspiration in the next couple of days and maybe discover your vocation as the next EdTech entrepreneur. But first, let's get some inspiration from someone who's already living in and shaping the world of EdTech and who lives entrepreneurship every day, someone who himself has lived abroad. It is now my great pleasure and privilege to introduce you to Roman Brückel. Roman is the Managing Director of Swiss EdTech Collider, located at EPFL Innovation Park, where he's in charge of supporting a community of 80+ EdTech entrepreneurs and startups. He has more than 20 years of experience in business and management and holds an international MBA from the Golden Gate University in San Francisco. Before leaving his native Switzerland for California, he worked for several years in the financial industry. During his time in San Francisco at the Silicon Valley, he was involved in the world of education entrepreneurship, working for International School, a global SaaS EdTech company, and the Khan Lab School, a laboratory school associated with the Khan Academy. Dear Roman, thank you so much for joining us, and the screen is yours.
That's a lot of applause for me. Thank you, Sebastian. Thank you, Sebastian. Thank you, SwissNext, and certainly also thank you, Movetia, for inviting me to this event. It's a pleasure to seeing you all, at least virtually, or being part of you virtually, and I'm looking forward to this exciting weekend. So welcome, everyone. I will now start sharing my screen. Sebastian, you have to give me permission briefly.
Yes, Roman, you can go ahead, share it.
Okay. There we go. Thank you. So, okay, hope everyone can see my screen now. So before I take you on a short trip, or I beam you, as Sebastian said, to Switzerland and the world of education technologies, I would like to present you 2 numbers to emphasize the importance of the topic of this nexHack this weekend. 800 million year 2030. I can assure you, unfortunately, it's not my salary in 2030, but this is the number of jobs that will disappear and or will fundamentally change until 2030 due to the 4th industrial revolution that we are currently in. Next number is 65%. 65% of future jobs for those who start elementary school today do not even exist yet. So what do those numbers tell us? If we do not change the way how we educate and learn nowadays, then years from now, probably earlier than later, we will have problems. This is not a statement from me, this is a statement from Jack Ma. Some of you might know him. He used to be the CEO and founder of Alibaba, Amazon of China, who said that at the World Economic Forum in Davos. Why did he used to be? So he basically quit his job just a couple of months ago to start something new, make an education, guess where? Education and education technologies. So let me take you on a quick evolutionary trip to show you how typical industries developed over the past 150+ years. You see the car industry, you see the phone industry, completely changed. Now let me take you on a trip with the school industry. You see 1850, 1950. What do you think does the school look like nowadays? Almost the same, a little bit more colorful, but the methodologies and the tools that we use in school and classrooms look still very similar than 150 years ago. So the fourth industrial revolution is taking us to a threshold of a more dynamic, sophisticated digital information age and environment. This impact of technology will have extensions across a variety of fields. So meaning here, politics, engineering, medication, but also education. So when we look at this chart here about the 2022 skills outlook, what skills we need in the future, we see that a lot is related to technology, analytical thinking skills, technology design, analysis, and so on. Let's have a look together at the next slide to see what jobs will emerge in the coming years. So it is expected that in areas such as you can see, data analysis, artificial intelligence, machine learning, that we will have over 133 million jobs that will be created by 2022. So very soon only. Now we know what jobs await us. Now we know what the future skills look like, or the necessity to learn those future skills. Now the crucial question I pose to you, or I also ask myself, are the traditional methods that we have enough to complete those gaps that we see? I think it is quite a challenge. So how can we better prepare ourselves for these necessary skills and the complementary possibilities that are out there today? This is where Edtech comes in from our point of view. So we bring measures to tackle those challenges. But the world of education technology is extremely diverse. Those who work in that field know it. So according to a study by Navitas here, a market research institute, there are over 15,000 Edtech organizations worldwide that exist. And this was the number of 2019, end of year. So I assume that there are many more today with and because of COVID. The next slide shows the market in regards to the size of expenditures in the education industry, just to give you a picture of how big that is. We will not discuss the whole chart of Holland IQ. This is a market research organization in Edtech, but I will just highlight a few interesting facts. So if you look at the yellow line, that was the estimations before COVID of expenditures in education and education technologies. And the green line, which is significantly higher, is what we expect post-COVID. So if we look at some details here, we see that almost $8 trillion will be spent in 2025 in the education industry. Just to give you a comparison, the global healthcare market is $10 trillion. Out of those $8 trillion, $8 trillion, a total of $404 billion will be invested in EdTech and technological products. This is about 5% of the total expenses, so a huge market potential lies here. This slide here, the next one, shows the venture capital investments into EdTech startups over the past 10 years. So EdTech came onto the plate of venture capital investors roughly 10 years ago, and they started the decade in 2010 with 500 million of VC investments and finished 14 times higher now at 7 billion in 2019. You will see the red sections are China, so that makes more than 50% of the last decade's EdTech VC funding. US is about a third of all the funding. The rest is Europe, India, and the rest of the world. There is a trend that we can see that emerging markets such as Africa, Latin America, and Southeast Asia are growing rapidly nowadays because they have a large underserved learning education industry, and they're looking for tools where people can learn from everywhere, anytime. When we look at the technologies that are out there, to give you an overview, we see some trends. So besides the new technologies like VR and AR, which literally and symbolically bring you and open you new worlds and possibilities, as well as gamification and robotics, which help to make the learned and the learning success immediately visible, we also see the area of mobile learning and data analysis that offer great possibilities. Thanks to the gained data, individual and personalized learning is nowadays possible. And also thanks to mobility, people can learn from everywhere, anytime. It will be really an exciting time. In regards of the fields of use, when we think of Edtech, we think primarily of technologies that are aimed at schools, mostly compulsory education. But this is not the case. Edtech is not only concerned with such technologies, it also covers other learning phases, from early childhood education through to corporate training and learning. We can see technologies everywhere taking place. While with all this new technology, we can ask ourselves, are those solutions better than teachers and educators? Or differently asked, should we replace them, those traditional learning and the teachers and educators completely with Edtech? I'm of the personal opinion, absolutely not. I hope the pause was long enough. Technologies and tools that we use nowadays are not magical cures. They are just opportunities that open us possibilities which we did not have beforehand. I have provided you an example, a video of a virtual reality app. Sebastian and his team will post a link so that you can have a look at it afterwards in the Slack channel under resources. So let's jump from the global landscape now to the situation in Switzerland. How does it look like here in terms of education system and opportunities? So probably not all of you know the specific system of the Swiss education model. So I will highlight this here. So there's a special feature, a peculiar feature here. We have 4 official languages in Switzerland of instruction in schools and 26 different cantons. When we look at the size of the different segments of the education sector, so of course, public compulsory education with primary and secondary education is the biggest segment with roughly 9,500 schools and 950,000 students. Then we have schools in upper secondary with 855 schools and 360,000 students. And then we have 415 schools and education institutions in the higher ed sector with 310,000 students. Why do I show you this number? It's to show you that there is a market in education there and that offers possibilities in it for EdTech. Now that you have seen a rough overview of the EdTech market and its complexity, you will understand now also the needs that there must be an entity that oversees all the activities in EdTech. And this is basically where we as the Swiss EdTech Collider come in. We are a hub and center for EdTech startups. We are basically a physical hub that supports the digital transformation in education with technological solutions. We are based here in beautiful Lausanne at EPFL. EPFL itself, the research university, has become a hub and center in Europe for learning technologies and sciences. And what we have done in the past 3 years, since 2017, we are not as old as Swiss Next, so we have been around for 3.5 years. We built a unique ecosystem around EdTech that looks like this. So firstly, we have, of course, the core of our system is the EdTech startups itself. We are roughly 80 members right now. We have an EdTech member experts community around that in the closer stakeholder segments. We have ties to investors, to schools, education institutions, to corporate clients. And as I said, we can also tap into the academic research. So all of this has been created for the startups to basically grow in different segments of their learning curve. We also have outer stakeholders where we build up the expertise and network with other learning experts. So not inside of Switzerland, but also outside of Switzerland. We are part of global Edtech networks. One of the largest one is EETN, which is the European Edtech network, but also the European Commission has just accepted us as the first digital innovation hub in Edtech by the European Commission in May 2020. Here is an overview of the current startup members, so you don't have to count them, whether it's 80 or not. It's a fast changing world. There are startups coming and going, basically almost by the week, specifically after the pandemic crisis started in spring this year, where the schools and educational institutions, but also corporations are looking for distance learning solutions. So why should you, who are participating today, want to start a venture in EdTech? Is it actually a lucrative thing to do? From my point of view, absolutely. Here are some reasons. I see that you can democratize education per se. You can fight social injustice. You can make it available to people that usually maybe don't have the opportunity to participate in education. Hence, you have a global and social impact. It is a purpose-driven venture when you look at the EdTech startup, because education is a basic need. You have for sure also the opportunity to help us and future generations to do lifelong learning. So to better prepare us for the future, what is coming, because we need to change and adapt every day, basically, in order to be competitive. And also you have seen the market opportunities which are there. And finally, also investors are looking now to education technologies for investments. Just to give you an example, Credit Suisse just launched a new fund last year. It's a 1 billion fund. It's called Credit Suisse Edutainment Fund. You can look it up, and they invest that money into EdTech ventures. So now from my personal view, before you go and start, your EdTech ventures this weekend, some tips. So you have to be sure what you want to solve, specifically in education, because it's a peculiar market. So try to fix a problem that exists, but still think not only regional, but also big. You need to know the specific education segment and the end users you're addressing your solution then. Have some teacher and education expert advice early on in your venture. Movetia is one of the partners that is participating here. They're a great resource to support that. When you make solutions aimed to teachers, please keep one thing in mind. If it does not save them time and it's not easy to handle, they will never use it. So make sure that you address those points. And last but not least, do not try to replace the big players. I want to be the new Google Classroom platform. That hardly ever works, because a school and also corporations it's very difficult to convince them to implement a new system. But make a system, make something unique that is complementary, that can be added on and integrated. So having said that, this is how I want to finish my presentation today. Two statements from two very famous people. The last one is from myself. Never stop learning, because life never stops teaching. And in this regards, I wish you good luck and lots of success with your endeavors. Thank you.
Thank you, Roman. That was a really excellent keynote speech for us to get started with. So now we have two challenges that we are hacking this weekend. They are both broad topics, and they're based on real world pain points that are facing EdTech. So now I'm going to introduce two. You already heard mentioned earlier, they're two of our judges, and they're going to give us some more information about what's expected on each one of these topics. So first we have Robert Buttery, who is going to introduce challenge number 1. This is the connecting the local and global challenge. And then following Robert is Amanda, introducing challenge number 2, Amanda Kramery. from Movetia, and she's introducing the International Digital Learning Spaces Challenge. And the other thing about Amanda is that she's coming from Movetia, which of course is offering the opportunity for seed funding after the hackathon, which I know is a really exciting opportunity. So she'll give you a little introduction into what you can expect from that as well. So please, Robert, let's start with challenge number 1.
Thank you very much, Emma. Yes, I'm really excited, and I think it's an amazing opportunity to bring some solutions to some real challenges. And we want to point this out. These are real issues which need your solution. And you're the experts. We're going to put it over to you. The challenge number 1 is, how do we connect local and global? You have the challenge statement in front of you, which I don't think I need to read out. But what we're looking for here is, how do we integrate students into a local economy, into a local community, get that sense of connection, so when they go back home to respective countries, they will remember how wonderful Switzerland is, our education system is, and also they have the essential connections for their business, professional networking, and also for their social networking. And I think it's very much also about making education accessible to everyone. We know that traditionally mobility has been for the privileged few. These new possibilities in the digital world gives us so many options to include more people. So we're also going to be checking that out in the challenge statements. How do we open doors? How do we create impact? I think that's another word which we'll be looking for. So I don't need to talk. I'm really excited to follow you through the 48 hours. It's 47, 30 minutes now, isn't it? See how you're going, and I'm looking forward to Sunday. What do you come up solutions? Because we need your solutions. We're in a terrible pandemic, COVID-19. Everything has stopped. Yes, we need to reignite this, both in digitally and also in mobility. You're going to give us some great answers. I'm looking forward to hearing them along with the jury and my fellow panelists.
Hello, everybody. I'm Amanda, and it's a pleasure to introduce the second challenge for this hackathon, the International Digital Learning Spaces. Let's read the challenge together. Digitalization helps crossing borders without physical travel and is extending and broadening the learning environment. Virtual cooperation and mobility can make education and all education fields more inclusive, but certain risks and barriers have to be mitigated. Think about, how do you connect? How do you networking virtually, digitally? How do you think about the intercultural dimension? How can cultural dimension immersion take place digitally, virtually? And this is your task for the next 2 days. Propose a digital solution that considers how virtual cooperation and mobility contribute to creating high-quality learning experiences based on international interaction and exchange. And by the way, I would like to point out that we need some more subscriptions for the challenge number 2, because we have to keep it in balance with the challenge number 1. And some more words about the seed money from Movetia. Movetia and how to apply for seed money at Movetia. Movetia will contact the most interesting and promises, ideas and prototypes after the hackathon and make a concrete proposals on how to proceed. At this stage, it's very difficult to say how many projects we will be able to fund. It depends on how big your idea will be. But I would say probably 3 to 4. We promise that the application process will be simple, and we will award for each selected project 15,000 Swiss francs per project. It is seed money, so keep in mind that an important criteria will be that the teams are to be ready and open to further develop the idea and the prototype after the hackathon in the next coming weeks and months. And a very important eligibility criteria, a team member, ideally the project coordinator, must be based in Switzerland. If this is not the case, for the very good idea, we will try and match and put some teams together. That's all from my side. Good luck, guys.
Thank you, Robert and Amanda. So guys, it is almost, I just have a few more announcements and then we can get started. So I mentioned earlier, we have a full program this weekend. We have 3 workshops. We have 2 yoga sessions. We have networking, everything, and of course hacking on top of all of this. So all of these things are on the program are optional, but we really do recommend take breaks, do the yoga, come to the workshops. It's gonna help you make a better project in the end. You can either send your whole team or you can send 1 or 2 people who are interested in learn about pitching or one of the other So the first workshop starts tonight. This is at 5 p.m. CET, and it's it's a really excellent place for you to start off your ideation and really get your project started in the right way. So I recommend you go to that. By the way, for the first workshop, as a reminder. Another reminder, I'm telling you these times in CET, but on the program that you received, that is the Google Sheet, it has many other time zones listed. So it's going to be easier for you to see when things are going on in time zones. And then we have 2 more workshops that are tomorrow. One is the creating impactful videos, and one is crafting your elevator pitch. Excellent once you have your projects a little bit more developed. Go to these workshops and help fine tune how you're going to teach it to the judges. Okay, so by the way, I think you have all the links to all of these events that I'm talking about already. We're going to keep sharing them on Slack, so you should be able to access everything. Now, technology and education, we have tools that we're using this weekend. One is, of course, Zoom. We're here for our opening event, our workshops, and the yoga take place all on Zoom. Then we have Slack, of course. Many of you are already there. This is your main hub of communication. Please leave it open the whole weekend with your alerts on. This is where you work together on projects. It's also where you ask the mentors for all the questions for them. It's where you're going to get announcements from us about things going on. So that's an important one. And then finally, we have Remo, the networking events. So this is a separate tool, and it has little tables that are all set up, and it's really easy to move around freely and talk to different people. So you can have fun with that when we have the networking sessions. Just a few tips for when you do log into Remo. One, please use the internet browser. It's optimized for the make log on from a computer rather than a mobile phone, and then make sure you have a strong internet connection, and then you're going to have a better experience on Remo. So I mentioned you talk to the mentors on Slack. Please do this. You have 12 mentors at your disposal for the weekend, and they are experts in their fields. They are really good. They're going to help you get your projects going along. So don't be shy. Please throw your questions at them and your expertise. Since we are based in a bunch of different time zones, we have limited hours that we're all online together. So don't sleep on those hours. Definitely post those questions and utilize their expertise. So next thing is the final video. Sebastian already gave detail about what we're here, but just a couple of points. We really submitted by the deadline, which ET on Sunday, and we can't accept videos that are more than 3 minutes. So if they're longer or if they're late, you're going to start having points deducted. So we do need to stick to these 2 rules, please. Otherwise, I was stressed about the final video. We're not looking for perfectly edited things. I mean, the judging is not on the video itself, it's on your concept. How to get creative through the video workshop tomorrow, and we can help you out with that. Okay, so we are almost done with our opening event. Directly after this, you have several options of what you can do. So let me explain to you where you can go after this. First, if you are ready to hack, you have a team, you've registered your team, challenge you, head over to Slack, start asking the mentors for help, and start hacking. The hack has begun for you. If you're still wondering a little bit about one of the challenge statements, then we are right after this session. There's going to be 2 different Zoom rooms, one with Amanda, one, and these are just free Q&A sessions. So you can raise your hand and ask whatever burning questions you have, either about the seed funding with Amanda or about one of the challenge statements. So to one of, or send maybe a representative from your team if you're still deciding, and throw your questions at them. And then finally, I know that I think a lot of people have teams at this point, but not everyone. So people who have joined a bit later, they don't have a team, or maybe you have a team, but it still has 1 or 2 spots open. You're going to meet me over on Remo, and we're going to do some last minute shuffling around and meeting teams there. So we are asking to please register your teams by 5 p.m. today. This is going to help us plan the rest of the weekend once we know how many teams we're officially working with. So please, please register your teams today. Okay, so I hope now you all have an idea of where you're going to go next. I have just one more point to let you know. I mean, we are all, as I keep saying, we're tuning in from all around the world. We're all in different places, and I want to see where you're at. So please take videos, take photos, share social media, tag us at SwissNext India. You can use the hashtags Next20 and Learning Tomorrow. Just share. We also have a channel on Slack that's just for you to share videos and photos. It's the hashtag photos videos channel. So yeah, let's get connected. Let's show each other what our workspaces are like, what our schedules are like, you know, what's the status of your project, different things like that. So please share. We want to make a really fun and video. It's a little different doing this all on screens, and just to feel like we're all working together on this. So that is actually it. That's all for my whole list of announcements for you. And just to close out the event, I want to invite everyone back on the stage, all the panelists and my nexHack team as well.